very issue, and as Annie and I were talking about it, I thought, well, she's not doing anything wrong, and that's exactly how I think about those things. And I thought, well, wait a minute, I need to jump in here. I don't want to pass on one of my own failures just because I haven't thought about it biblically. So what we're looking at is, and again, just remember that this is the kind of topic that's very, very easy to just overly simplify or vastly overcomplicate. And so we're trying to balance this down into a biblically analytical approach. So we started, again, we're going with our basic questions. We started with what is it? And so our definition is a firm belief in the ability, reliability, truth, or strength of someone or something. Again, that's pretty basic. The two main topics, or main points that we talked about was that trust is relative. And we're not going to go through all this again, but I've been throwing this image up a lot because it is so central and so important. But just keep in mind that we should have a relative trust in ourselves. Right? We need to be very careful. We need to remember whoso trusts in his own heart is a fool. Obviously, we need to have a relative trust in others. You put the, what was it? It said, I think it was Proverbs. It was Jeremiah 17:5. It said, "Cursed be he that putteth his trust in man." So you need to be careful about who you put your trust in. And then we even talked about the importance of having a relative trust in God. And that might shock you, but we need to remember that your trust in God is relative to your understanding of Him, or your capacity to trust God is relative to your understanding of Him. If you trust Him to just do whatever you want, whenever and however you want, that trust is going to be going to fail. That's why it's so important for us to teach doctrine and to teach theology. Because if we use the example, if you grow up believing that when the chips are down and you just can't pay your bills because of irresponsibility, or you've stayed in a job that you shouldn't stay at, and this, that, and the other. But if you just believe, God will come through, and you'll always have, your bills will always be paid by magic, and the food someone will magically drop off a turkey at your doorstep, because that's just how it happens for Christians. Wrong. God certainly can and often does do those sort of things, but if you were brought up, or you raise your kids to count on God as a genie as opposed to a teacher and a God and a father who expects you to grow, your trust is you're going to set yourself up and your kids for failure. So again, our trust in God is relative to or should be relative to our understanding of Him. And again, I hope that you let that sink in. So we talked about trust being relative, and we talked about trust is a must. So you must trust in God. You desperately need to learn how you should trust God. The same is true with yourself. You need to be able to trust in yourself. And again, that sounds counterintuitive, but if you say, hey, Lord willing, I'm going to do this. I'm going to be at work. How could you ever tell someone that you're going to do something if you have zero trust in that you're going to get up, you're going to take a shower, you're going to eat, you're going to get there, and you're going to do the job, right? So you need to have at least a relative trust in yourself. And I pointed just briefly to the fact that far too many Christians have failed themselves over and over and over and over and over and over and over again, such that they give up and they don't set goals, and they don't they just stop having New Year's resolutions and all that because it's, well, I'm just going to fail again. Why bother? You shouldn't trust me because I don't trust myself. So there needs to be a biblically balanced trust in oneself. And then same is true with others. You cannot drive down the road at night or in the day without having some sort of relative trust of other people, that they're going to stay in their lane, that every car isn't going to plow into you. I met with a pastor this morning, and we had a conversation just to help each other out. You need people in your life that you can trust. Now, all of that leads to all right, well, how do you go about that? How do you decide there's 1,000 questions. Well, I've tried to distill those questions down, and we're going to start off with just a simple concept. Ask questions. And I'm going to put out some questions here, some general concepts that should help us develop a better, and through all of these, I say, how do you get it? I'm not going to double this up and teach all these questions twice. As we go through all of this, you need to be thinking in terms of, people are going to ask these questions of me, and so I need to be able to answer these questions for other people in my relationship with them, but I also need to answer these questions and be asking and answering these questions about other people that I'm trusting. Does that make sense? So there's a relationship. I need you to be able to trust me. You need to be able to trust me. And these questions help. So take your Bible and flip, if you would, to Genesis chapter 41. We're going to talk about Joseph. Genesis chapter 41. And then we'll turn back to Matthew chapter 1. We'll talk about Joseph again. So, question number 1, who are they? Now, when I say this, who are they, we're talking about something specific. Specific character qualities. So, if you look at Genesis chapter 41 and you look at verse 39, and again, I'm trying to distill this as much as possible, but if you look at verse 39, the Pharaoh said unto Joseph, Forasmuch as God hath showed thee all this, there is none so discreet and wise as thou art. Then he goes on, thou shalt be over all my house, etc., etc. So, discreet and wise, who are they? There were some specific character qualities about Joseph. Pharaoh didn't have all of his life story and all of the details, but he had seen enough about Joseph in these key character qualities that he chose to trust him with a great deal of responsibility. Amen? So, if you flip back to Matthew chapter 1, we'll look at another Joseph. Look at verse 19. Again, very simply, Matthew 1:19, and Joseph, her husband, being a just man, and not willing to make her a public example, was minded to put her away privily. That's a simple verse, but we see there a specific character quality about Joseph that caused God himself to put his eternal Son in his hands. So, when we are going about asking the question, how do you go about developing trust? Can this person trust me? Should I trust them? Ask, well, who are they? And when you ask that question, or when you know that question is going to be asked about you, you should start thinking about, all right, what are some of the qualities or characteristics that would define that individual? Boy, we could have a whole lot of fun right now, right? We didn't have such a long thing. But I was, one of my students was taking some Facebook attack today, made some post about abortion, and then people attacked him. You know, Christians should never judge, and if you really understood people's circumstances, that sometimes abortion is okay and important, and you're no Christian and you're no pastor if you're judging. And I thought, and I went ahead in his defense and I said, listen, let's stop fooling ourselves. Everybody judges all day, every day. To suggest that you don't means that we don't have critical thinking. And I just went on. We judge, and people use these trigger words like racist. Oh, if you're racist, there's whether you're racist or not. If someone calls you a racist, it's like, oh, I win the argument. Or, well, you're judging me. What that means is, stop talking. I don't like what you're saying. Shut up. Well, sorry. You know, when we're having an intelligent conversation, that doesn't work. You don't get to just throw out certain key words and end it all. So, and again, that's a whole, we've done sermons on that, and we'll talk about it again. But who is this person? What are some specific character issues about them that would let me know whether the extent to which I can trust them? So, who are they? What are they? Now, that goes from specific character issues to more of a general label. 1 Kings chapter 22. Again, this is kind of sword drill time, going quickly through our scriptures. 1 Kings chapter 22. I love this portion of the Word of God. Here we have these kings. They're not serving God. They're in it, but they're facing a battle and they're scared to death. And so in 1 Kings chapter 22, look at verse number 7. And Jehoshaphat said, "Is there not here a prophet of the Lord, besides that we might inquire of him?" And the king of Israel said unto Jehoshaphat, "Well, there is yet one man, Micaiah, but the son of Imlah, but in whom we may inquire of the Lord. But I hate him, for he doth prophesy. He doth not prophesy good concerning me, but evil." Jehoshaphat said, "Well, let not the king say so." And they ended up pulling Micaiah out of jail. And Micaiah even played with him. He said, "Oh, sure, everything's going to be great." And they said, "Come on now, tell the truth. What does God really say?" And he said, "If you live throughout the day, I'm no prophet of God." See, I told you I hate him. There was this general character quality about what he is. He was a prophet of God. Being a pastor is not something you do. It's something you are. Being a Christian is not something you do. It's something that you are. I would even go so far as to say that certain things like being a teacher is not something that you just do. It's something you are. Being a Marine is not something you do. It's something you are. There are certain things that just, they define you as an individual. And could that be helpful?
Well, so if you, one of the first questions you ask when you meet somebody, at least with guys, is what do you do for a living?
Yeah.
Because that kind of frames in my mind how you think. And there's broad strokes, I get that. You're going to be willing to be wrong. I mean, to be corrected. But still, if someone's an engineer, I can relate to him on one level.
Mm-hmm.
If someone's a writer, that's a whole different set of parameters for the relationship.
Right. And just the way they answer that question. So, well, I work at, as opposed to, well, I am a, I mean, immediately you're getting information that can help you make better, understand, make better judgments about people. So, again, who are they? What are they? Again, we could go back to Daniel. Remember? The soothsayers, they knew that if they were going to catch Daniel, they were going to get him, the only thing they were going to get him on was a matter of their faith in God, because they knew he was a man of God. Conversely, flip back to Proverbs chapter 26. Proverbs 26. Look at verses 6 and 8. And so, Proverbs 26, look at verse 6. "He that sendeth a message by the hand of a fool cutteth off the feet and drinketh damage." Now, God used some disgusting description there on purpose. "The legs of the lame are not equal, so is a parable in the mouth of fools. As he that bindeth a stone in a sling, so is he that giveth honor to a fool. As a thorn goeth up into the hand of a drunkard, so is a parable in the mouth of fools." Now that's just a small example of what Proverbs teaches us about our relationship with fools. A fool is someone who absolutely refuses to learn. That's what a fool is. It's not necessarily someone who is ignorant, because a person can be very, very intelligent and still be a fool. But some people refuse to learn. No matter how many people try to help them, no matter how many circumstances God brings in their life to teach them a lesson, they are a fool, they're obstinate, and they refuse to learn. So when you trust that person, the Bible says confidence in an unfaithful man. When you choose to trust a fool, it's gonna hurt. You're going, unless, and I would say even if it's just something simple and small, eventually, if you count on him long enough, he's going to disappoint you. So all of these things, and again, we live in this society that says don't label people and don't judge people. You'd better. Because if you're not a good judge of character, then you will put your trust in people. Now again, I know there's this gigantic parentheses. I am so glad that Annie didn't decide to marry me or not marry me based on who I was at the time. I'm so thankful that her parents and her pastor and other people said, well, Manny's a goofball, but I think because of these things that he's going to turn out eventually. You know? So again, we've got to be careful about that. But there are certain specific and general things that we can learn about a person that lets us know some baseline issues. And again, when someone, I am a Christian, how about that one?
Careful.
True. And that's where, again, we need to be asking, and we'll talk about some more specifically, but if someone is a born-again believer, you can tell this is someone who is in love with Jesus, that should change the way they, it's true. You'll meet people who will say, oh yeah, I go to church, or I'm a member of that church, or oh yeah, I'm a Christian, but you listen to them for 5 minutes, and what do you know? You pretty much know that they're not a Christian.
Or they haven't grown very far, or however long.
Right. So again, you're making judgments, and you're trying to discern, all right, how much can I or should I trust this individual based on these character qualities. So who are they? What are they? Here's another one. Where are they? This is huge. This is so important for us to develop the skill of and be mindful of our own position. Have you ever heard me say the phrase, I don't want to shoot from the hip here? It's because I'm paying attention to where I am. And maybe if I'm saying that, it's probably because I'm not confident in my ability to answer that question in the state that I'm in. So we need to be mindful about where people are. You think of Peter in Luke chapter 22 when he denied Christ. I mean, if you judged him completely on that one moment, well, what a reprobate. He denied Christ. But we know, because we know before and we know behind, that the real issue was a matter of where he was at that time. And so we need to be mindful of where people are. You see the same thing in Acts chapter 13 and 15 with John Mark. How that John Mark set out on the missionary journey. Things started to look a little scary, and he said, I'm going back to Pamphylia. And so later on, Paul was like, I don't want to take John Mark. Because he was making judgments about where he had been. And Barnabas and others had said, wait a minute, you're making judgments about where he was. Look at where he is. Now, I know this is a lot of information. These are some huge, broad, sweeping concepts about how to make judgments on other people, and other people are going to make judgments on you. Have you ever had someone make a judgment about you, decide who, what, and how you are based on this tiny little slice of your life, and it was just because of where you were at that moment? Well, if we're going to enter into relationships with people, or they're going to enter into a relationship with us, and there's going to be any sort of trust, we need to take these things into account. Ask questions. Even if you're just asking in your mind, all right, what are some, if I had to just put 3 specific character qualities, or if I had to say, what is this guy? Or who is this person? How would you describe that? And sometimes the answer, very often the answer should be, not enough information. Good. That means be very careful about trust. Go ask more questions. Spend more time. I don't know if I shared this or not. Just recently I read an article of an executive who, his first interview is early in the morning. He takes the person to breakfast, and he pays the waitress and the staff to get his order wrong, or that person's order wrong. Why? Because he wants to see how they respond. And that's just the first of many tests. What's this about? Trust. So, who are they? What are they? Where are they? Again, who are you? What are you? Where are you? We need to be asking those questions. And one of the things that, and again, I know I'm kind of getting off my notes. I want to be very careful about not unpacking this too much. But appropriate expectations. That's something coming down the road, and I'm not trying to just throw it all out there, but appropriate expectations. That is a topic that we need to do a better job of having nailed down. All right, so who or what are they? Second is, what am I trusting them with? That should be pretty simple, right? Remember back in 1 Samuel chapter 15, we see that God had given Saul a specific job to do. Go in there, wipe everybody out. Did he do the job? No. He did most of the job. And when he got called on it, he blame shifted. So God had, this was just one tiny sliver in his bigger job of king of Israel, and he had failed. And because he had failed that, God said, well, I can't trust you with this, so I can't trust you with the rest of it. Thus, he that is faithful in little, and that which is least, will be faithful also in much. What am I trusting this person with? That's why when you fill out a resume, you let people know some of the things that you have done, some of the positions you have occupied, some of your values, but what they want to see is, what's this person's history? Do I know what I can trust? What can I trust this person with? To what extent are they capable? Are they competent? Are they trustworthy to do this thing that I'm asking them to do? Pause for a second and recognize that if you're asking that question of that other person, you need to be able to answer that yourself first. One of the things that I need to be careful here. I don't want to gossip. One of my favorite books about ministry is Sustainable Youth Ministry by Mark DeVries. And one of the things that he told us to do is sit down with any church and agree on your job description. Have them write it down. You write down what you think your job description is. And then somewhere, you two, the people you are responsible to, and you come to an agreement about what your job is. If you don't, you'll always be in trouble for not doing the job that you didn't know was yours. And especially in youth ministry, or in second-man positions in church, especially in independent fundamentalist Baptist churches, pastors like to hire themselves a preacher boy. And you know what that means? I want a gopher. I want a little squire. I want someone I get to boss around. I want someone that I can yell at when they're not here at 6 in the morning when they should be. Or I want someone to yell at or be upset with when I'm trying to lift this thing and I need a second back and I pay you to be here every time that I want someone to be here. That's why one of the advice that I constantly give young men entering into the ministry, especially, youth pastor positions or second man positions, write out your job description. So at least the people who are writing your paycheck, the people who decide whether you are doing a good job or not, have taken the time to put to paper what they are trusting you to do. I remember there was a circumstance at Lebanon where someone thought hey, we pay that guy, why isn't he cutting the grass? And I said, well, I'd be happy to get into a rotation of cutting the grass if that would help, but that's not my job. And I'm willing to help out if there's a problem. But I do have a job to do. And there were a host of other things that kept coming up. And I was so thankful that I kept coming back to, look, these are the things that you've hired me and asked me to do. These are the priorities. And I'd be happy to help out as a church member for free doing those things as long as it doesn't stop me from doing my job. And some people understood that, and some people didn't.
Other duties as required.
Yeah. So that right there is, how about no? Or you're going to pay for it. So, expectations. What am I trusting this person to do? Like, we start dating. And he is so wonderful that my mean old dad that would tell me I have to be at home by curfew. My mean old dad that tells me to pick up my room. My mean old dad that tells me all of these things. I'm going to marry some man who would love me and never disagree with me. And he would never tell me what to do. And he would never break my heart. And of course we idiot boys say, I never break your heart, I love you, right? It's not realistic. You're not thinking in a mature fashion about what you're trusting that person to do. And if we're not careful, if we don't take the time to think very carefully about what we're trusting them to do and what they're trusting us to do. Well, you're the pastor, you're supposed to have all the answers. I'm sorry. That's wrong. Well, you're the pastor. Don't you have this special unction with God that you can, be healed and just fix it? Well, no. Where in Scripture does it say that my prayers are more powerful than your prayers? So, we need to be very careful about what, you start off with who, what, and how they are and where they are. But then you ask, right, what specifically am I trusting this person to do? And when you get serious about it, just those two steps, you start adjusting your expectations. Just the very concept of where they are. Just the time of day, the time of month, the time of year. All of those three simple things should affect what you do and don't trust people with. Yeah? So, who and what are they? What am I trusting them with? To what extent are they capable, competent, trustworthy to do this thing? So, let's move on then. How much? So, who, what, how, and now we're talking about how much, how far, and how long. To what extent am I willing to trust this person, this group? Flip back to Matthew chapter 10. Matthew chapter 10. Verse 16. And again, this kind of seems weird, but behold, I send you forth as sheep in the midst of wolves. Be ye therefore wise as serpents and harmless as doves. Now think about that. Think about what God is entrusting us with, what He was entrusting these disciples with. And this verse makes it very, very clear. I'm giving you this responsibility, but you better be very careful. Recognize your own weakness. Recognize the enemy. Recognize these dangers. And the whole point of that is to draw them back to a reliance on Him. So, when you're trying to earn someone's trust, these phrases, how much can this person trust me? How far should this person be willing and able to trust me? How long can this person trust me? There was in the Karate Kid remake, Jackie Chan is training Jaden Smith, and he says, you need to focus. And he goes, I am focused. And he goes, psh, your focus needs more focus. Right? Well, I am patient. Well, maybe your patience needs more patience. I am loving. Well, maybe your love needs more love. You know what I mean? How much, how far, how long? To what extent am I willing to trust this individual? Think about it with your kids. I trust Isaac, but if I ask him to go do a job, I'm going to give him a specific amount of time, and then I'm going to go what? I'm going to check on him. That's not just Isaac, but there are some people that if I ask them to do a job, I wouldn't check on them at all. They'll get that done. They'll let me know when that job is finished, when it's over. There are other things, that when Isaac first started using power tools, or when Isaac first started making fires, and we did a whole lot of checking. As he is maturing, the extent to which, how much, how long, how far I can trust him is expanding, because he's demonstrating that he is trustworthy. There are other people who make mistakes, or you can see that they're careless. They just have a short attention span. That's why honesty needs to be tested. We've all heard the phrase "trust but verify," I imagine. So, trust him, but test him, and to see. So, how much can I trust him? How far can I trust him? How long can I trust him? And this is where the concept of the best way to have trust is to not need trust comes in. You've heard me say that before, right? The best way to have trust is to not need it. And what that means is, I'm not asking you to trust me. Look. Classic example is the X3 watch on my devices. So I don't want Annie constantly worrying, is my husband looking at pornography? I put something on my laptop that would grab that if it came through my laptop, however that works, and send it to her. That's me saying, I don't want you to worry about this here. It's not even a matter of trust. It's a matter of, now, are there ways to get around, do that? I'm sure there are. But eventually stir up dust, and, it's like, people are going to see that you're going out of your way to hide. My point is, one of the best ways, in my opinion, to earn trust is to invite criticism, to invite testing, to invite people to evaluate your performance, to test you, to be the one that instigates that. When I came here, I was one of the ones that instigated and said, I want to know what you think of my ministry. What do you think of my preaching? What do you think of my teaching? What do you think of these things? And that led to some conversations. And some of those conversations were easy, some of them weren't. Some of the parts were easy and some of them were not. And one of the things that I was doing was I was leading by example by saying, all right, here I am, the pastor, saying, let me know, let's evaluate. Guess what? Shoe's going on the other foot. I'm the pastor. You're my leadership team. Now we're going to evaluate your performance. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And the point is that people who are trustworthy, they don't want these question marks. You don't want question marks over your character. You don't want question marks over your performance. So people who are genuinely trustworthy, if they even feel or sense a question mark, they're showing up saying, let's check it out. Let's go look. Does that make sense? I remember when bad people were trying to put question marks over my character when it comes to my reliability when it came to money. And it was just stirring up dust. Just stirring up drama, hoping that if I keep throwing up question marks, eventually people are going to say, oh, there's just so many question marks around you all the time. So I felt like with this enemy, I was constantly, it seemed like every week, I was answering something because there was a question. And I was chasing down saying, all right. By the way, one of them was a debit card, and I was like, look, I don't have access to the bank account, but you do. Go to the bank account, they'll print you off a piece of paper and tell you everything that came out of there. Why are you asking me, or why are you asking him? Go to the bank, get it. And if there's something wrong, let's talk about it. But stop questioning my character without that paper in hand. Because that shows what you're doing. Well, you see, and when you go on the offense and you're the one who's saying that whose trust, whose word is valuable, and you protect it, we'll get there in a second, then eventually people just like, it finally got to the point where this same old person crying wolf, crying wolf, eventually the board is like, shut up! You know, you're going to keep doing this. Every time you bring up a question, you know, it's fine, stop this. Does it make sense? So, how much, how far, how long am I willing to trust this person? Reach out there, work hard to make your testimony and your reputation above reproach. All right? Blameless, in 1 Timothy 3, literally means without handles. In judo, you're looking for something you can grab a hold of so you can take them down. A handle, something I can grab a hold of. One of the reasons why you don't see a lot of mixed martial arts guys with a ponytail is because that's something you can grab. It's a handle. Well, do you have handles on you? Things that the enemy can grab a hold of. Weaknesses, breaches in someone else's capacity or ability to trust you. All right, so what is it? What do you do? Or how do you get it? Now what do you do with it? You maintain it. You even earned trust must be maintained. The reason why it has to be maintained, it has to be protected. The reason why I throw that up there is because what you're looking at is a relationship. Not just between those two, but between you and me and them. Think about this. That dog has to trust that man. Completely, with his life. If he doesn't, they can't work together. That man has to trust that dog, right? That if I send him, he'll do what I tell him to do, and then he'll stop when I tell him to stop. That's one of the most amazing, when you think about what that's capable of, one of the most amazing things about those animals, and the reason why they have those animals is you can't call a bullet back, but you can stop a dog dead in its tracks. So if you're walking through a mall where there's a threat, and someone looks threatening, you can't call that bullet back, but you can send that dog. And a well-trained dog can control someone, stop someone, eliminate a threat, or end the threat, eliminate the threat. So there has to be that trust, and it has to be earned, it has to be worked on. Well, it doesn't happen just, you spend 6 weeks and then it's done. No, it's a relationship. Right? Well, we are in a relationship with them. When you see a police officer, do you feel fear or do you feel comforted? Well, it's a matter of relationship. That's why it's so important for police, military, etc., to earn trust. They need to protect their trust. The body cams and all that sort of stuff, when we give them the monopoly on violence, you know what that means? In the group, they're the only ones authorized. I'm not going to go down that rabbit trail, but they're the ones they're the only ones that are authorized for violence. Meaning, if I, with a gun and my dog, walked into the situation, I would be seen as a danger, as the threat, right? Here's a guy with a gun with a big old German Shepherd. Oh no! But if I have a badge, there's this understanding. Okay, well, I'm supposed to be able to trust this person, that they have my best interest at heart. That trust has to be earned. That trust has to be maintained. And so, you and I need to be constantly asking ourselves the question, what must I do to maintain and protect the trust that I have in the relationships with the people I have? What are the threats? What are the things I could say or do? That's why as we move into this series on love languages, there are certain things, and with certain people, if you say or do certain things, or fail to say and do certain things, their trust in you shuts down. And you may not even know anything about it. That's why you have to work hard to earn that. That's why we need to communicate well about our expectations in those relationships. And again, These are huge, broad, sweeping terms. I understand. Get the notes and digest them, okay? I didn't want to spend 16 weeks talking about trust, okay? I want you guys to unpack these things for yourself. So you need to maintain and protect it. Again, my verse I use all the time, 1 Corinthians 4:2. Moreover, in stewards, it's required that a man be found faithful. You need to trust that this person is going to do what they've been stewarded to do. So, finally, what do you do with it? You use it. Trust is to be used. Used for what? Well, to learn. If I trust someone, I can learn from them. I can be led by them. I can be loved by this person. I know I'm talking fast and I've thrown a lot of stuff and we still got prayer to do, but please let this sink in. You need people. You need people in your life that you can trust. Like I said, I sat down to coffee with a man today, someone who I have a relatively large amount of trust. And I was sharing things, and he was sharing things, and we were bouncing scriptural principles off of one another, and some of the conversation was easy and light, some of it was difficult and pointed. But I recognize, and he recognized, that we need one another, that iron sharpens iron, and that we both need that. So, that's why we cultivate this trust. Why? So that I can use it. When I need to lean on him, he's someone I'm confident I can lean on. When he needs to lean on me, we've protected it, we've maintained it, so use it. Amen? Use that trust when you need it. Conversely, use it to teach. If you've earned the trust in others, or if you're confident that they should trust you, use it to teach them, use it to lead, use it to love. And what an amazing example that is, right? It's what should be. You finish with Matthew 28:18-20. Think about the stewardship of us as Christians. We're supposed to represent God. We're supposed to be the light of the world. We're supposed to speak for the Creator, Savior, and King of the world. Unfortunately, many of us have not earned the trust of our friends, our family, our co-workers. Maybe it's issues that they have. Maybe it's issues we have. Probably a little bit of both. But if we expect to be able to lead others and love others effectively, trust is an important thing. We need to be asking these questions of ourselves. So that, are we trustworthy to do the job that God has called us to do? I want to finish. You could look at this piece of paper and say, "Wow, Pastor Brian, you really dug deep into the old mind vault here. This was just real mental gymnastics." Duh. Of course, you need to trust people and ask some questions and verify it. It seems pretty simple, Pastor Brian. It wasn't really the brightest moment there. My friends, as I look back on some of the greatest hurts of my life, some of the greatest disappointments of my life, I mean hurts that have handicapped me, damaged me. If I had been asking these questions, if other people that I trusted had said, "Brian, you don't have enough evidence to trust," or "Why are you trusting here?" I remember a guy that absolutely stabbed me in the back. I had a friend say, "Are you going to trust that guy?" over the phone, and I said, "What?" And he said, "Nope, I'm not going to say anything more." And I said, No. Come on, man. Don't do that. What do I need to be looking out for? He He said, I won't say anything else. You know what? That's not much of a friend. Don't do that. If there's something specific, let's have it. And I would suspect that if you look back and you would ask, if you just take these simple, easy, duh sort of questions and taken some time to get more robust answers, or just waited just a little bit longer, it's not to say you wouldn't trust people, but you might have had more realistic and appropriate expectations. And when you have more realistic and appropriate expectations, then when and if that person reveals that they are a human being, a flawed human being, but if you have realistic and appropriate expectations of that person, you're not going to be the immature person that goes, oh, you're not perfect. I trusted you. You see what I'm saying? So this seems easy, but we better do it. Amen? All right. Kill that.